A warm welcome from the Afghan president to Obama's new strategy for his country and Pakistan. Better than expected, he says. But is this a sign that the US realizes its policies have failed and now agrees that it takes more than just weapons to defeat the Taliban and al-Qaeda? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the show. I'm David Foster. It is no longer the US war on terror. The new name is Overseas Emergency Operations. On Friday, President Obama unveiled the new strategy for Pakistan and Afghanistan, defining quite plainly what he expected to achieve.
We have a clear and focused goal: to disrupt, dismantle, and defeat al-Qaeda in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and to prevent their return to either country in the future.
So what does the plan exactly include? Militarily, 4,000 more US troops will be sent to train the Afghan army. This in addition to the recent increase of 17,000 US troops for Afghanistan. Financially, Obama called on the US Congress to treble US aid to Pakistan to $7.5 billion over 5 years to help it to build democracy and strengthen its infrastructure. And to assist in developing Afghanistan, he promised a major boost in civilian workers to improve agriculture, education, law and infrastructure. Obama also pledged to promote human rights in Afghanistan. That's our topic tonight. Joining us, our guests from Kabul, the Afghan capital, Khalid Pashtun, an Afghan member of parliament. In Vienna, Cheryl Bernard, a senior analyst at the RAND Corporation. And in Islamabad, Ahmed Qureshi, a Pakistani affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Story. Ahmed Qureshi, let me talk to you first of all. Are you glad that the US now seems to be putting Pakistan center stage, or do you believe this is interference?
David, if anyone thinks that the new strategy of President Obama is welcome here in Pakistan, they're sadly mistaken. As far as we're concerned, this plan is a lot of mumble jumble that really conceals two main things. One, an expansion, a shift of the war from Afghanistan to Pakistan, and then expansion of that war within Pakistan, which means, of course, more American military interference in Pakistan in addition to the existing political interference. And number two, and this is what we're worried about, the regional approach within this plan basically hides a larger and bigger role for India in Afghanistan. The Iran, Russia, China thing is, I'm not sure exactly, and we're not sure exactly how that will be worked out by American officials. There have been ideas exchanged. Pakistani officials, in fact, we know, have in the past proposed to the Americans to include other regional players as a way to counter what many Pakistanis already believe, that there is an existing, a growing Indian presence in Afghanistan that poses, from the Pakistani perspective, a threat to Pakistani national security.
Let me go back to the original point. If this is interference, and you say it is and it's unwelcome, should President Obama sit back and let Pakistan sort itself out, because it's not been able to do that up till now?
Well, our problems actually, your question, David, implies that we have a problem and somehow Washington will resolve it. It's actually the other way around. The problem has been created by the United States' failed policy in Afghanistan. Remember, before the year 2005, Pakistan's entire western region, from the Arabian Sea to the China border, was very much quiet, was very much calm. The problems began and multiplied after the year 2005. Afghanistan has, under the American administration, failed administration, has turned into a launch pad for a multiple levels of insurgencies and other forms of problems that are expanding themselves into Pakistan. The problem is actually inside Afghanistan, and much of it has to do, frankly, with the way the U.S. Has politically and militarily managed the Afghan occupation. So the problem, if it's to be resolved, has to be resolved inside Afghanistan. We can manage our own problems.
All right, Cheryl Barnard, let me come to you. Joining us tonight from Vienna, written extensively about the Islamic world and the West's confrontation in many senses with it. You've said that it's important for the US to work with the right people. And a paper 2003, you said you have to correctly identify these elements, and finding the most suitable ways to cooperate them isn't easy. Well, it's taken up till now for the US to come up with a new strategy. Have they found the right people now?
I don't think this is a new strategy, actually. I think this is pretty much a return to the strategy, to the approach of 2002. And what's more critical here is that one looks at why did the implementation not work out better. And I think one reason was, and it's been correctly identified in the president's speech, that all the players were not sufficiently engaged. The plan didn't have enough credibility and enough buy-in from everyone, and there just wasn't enough cooperation from all the regional players. It's certainly not a trick, as the previous speaker implied, to point out the importance of Russia, India, the stands, as we call them, and all the other, China as well, all the other stakeholders in this, Europe, NATO, everyone actually has, if you look at it analytically and try to step back a little bit from ideology and from, I think, an ill-conceived national interest, everyone has a joint interest in having Afghanistan work. No one wants chaos and anarchy there. No one wants a narco state. All of those neighbors and other interested parties that I've mentioned, that are mentioned in the speech, actually have an interest in making that exercise work out and having a stable, prosperous, calm, peaceful country there with a functioning economy. That is certainly in Pakistan's best interest as well. I don't see that Indian assistance to that goal is a challenge to Pakistan. Why should it be? If Indians are there building hospitals and roads and participating in the development of a peaceful Afghanistan as outlined, that's not a threat to Pakistan, that's an assistance to Pakistan. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think help from the international community in assisting it with its own very massive and very disturbing, worrisome challenges should be something they should see positively as well.
Okay, if Pakistan were to try and sort out its own problems, and our previous speaker, Ahmed Qureshi, said that was the way to go, where in your opinion should it begin?
Well, I think the last years have shown that it's going to be very difficult for it to sort its own problems out. It's having a lot of problems with its border regions. It has been obliged to engage in very problematic deal-making with extremists there that hasn't worked. It hasn't brought the stability that they hoped. Parts of the country are splintering off de facto and are in the hands of these extremist groups. This is not a successful formula right now either, and they need to sit down with everyone who is concerned about making things work out well for them and figure out a formula of cooperation. I don't think they should see it as interference, and I don't think that an extremely patriotic view is the right one here. It's a problem we all share, and we all should try to see how to fix it together.
Let's bring in Khalid Pashto, an Afghan member of parliament, talking to us now from the Afghan capital, Kabul. Cheryl Barnard there was saying that Hillary Clinton had referred to Afghanistan as a narco state, a government of limited capacity and widespread corruption. And yet Hamid Karzai now says this is better than we expected. Is he right to say that, or is he trying to curry favour with the United States ahead of the presidential elections?
Well, first of all, I'd like to express that really in Afghanistan during the last 7 years of the international community as well as the Afghan government, elected government, both sides have tried very hard to reduce or eliminate the corruption as well as the drug or opium perhaps. But unfortunately, neither the international community or the Afghan government were able to reduce the corruption and also eradicate the opium crops. But we are now, of course, hoping for the new election and a new administration and a new government or new obligation that eventually we will be able to fight these both problems. But in the past, of course, we don't agree with our president. They were failed really to fight against the corruption.
But Khalid Pashto, this is corruption that goes right to the heart of government, a narco state. This is not a criminal element without. This is a criminal element right at the heart of Afghan politics.
As you know that, we always believed in the last 3 decades, the people of Afghanistan are always struggling with these kind of problems, like corruption, drugs, and criminals. And we've been fighting. The warlord is there, the people, local people, the hunger, starvation. This was one of the major problems that the Afghan people always believed and always was concerned about it. And now we think if there was a right administration from the beginning of 2002, which we always complain and express our concern to President Karzai and his administration, that they should really get decisive and serious to fight against the corruption, against the drug, against the criminals within the government. Unfortunately, the government were always trying, but they never fulfilled their obligation to really eradicate these problems. Now the people of Afghanistan is really tired and hearing these things over and over, and now they are hoping and predicting the new government and the new administration, which the new election will be held in the month of August, and they will be able to eradicate this problem. But so far, this current administration will failed to provide these kind of help.
OK, thanks very much indeed. We've covered some ground. We're going to narrow it down a little bit when we come back after this short break. And we'll be talking about the US accusing Pakistani spies of helping al-Qaeda. Stay with us for that on Inside Story.